At moments like this, when everyone's panicking about some overseas crisis, I always tell you to fall back on some favorite long-term themes. Themes that will still be there regardless of what happens in Turkey or Argentina, even China. One of the huge themes I highlight and get rich carefully is the domestic oil and gas revolution, as new technologies are being used to unlock vast reserves of crude and natural gas that were previously thought to be uneconomical. This has not only caused an incredible surge in domestic production, something the president highlighted in last night's State of the Union address, but we're also seeing companies start to deploy these new technologies for recovering oil and gas overseas. So who's the big winner from all this? I'll tell you who it is. It's Core Labs, CLB, the scientist of the oil patch. See, Core is the best technology in the business, both here and abroad, as 60% of the sales are international. They analyze the rock and fluids in oil reservoirs so that their clients can produce more oil per day while also helping them get more crude out of the ground over the life of the reservoir. Core tells oil and gas companies how and where to drill to get the most value out of their holdings. Their other big division, Production Enhancement, does the analysis oil companies need so that they can drill a well to perfection. And that includes designing the process of hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, the drilling technique that's opened up all the domestic shale plays I'm always talking about. Now, Core Labs just reported after the close today, and the numbers were excellent. Company delivered a 2-cent earnings beat off a $1.41 basis. More important, the company gave positive guidance for the next quarter and for 2014. One caveat, Core has tended to trade down after reports, regardless of whether the quarter is any good. If it gets it tomorrow, that's your chance, because the stock has always been higher every time I've had the CEO on since the last time. This stock has given you a 220% return since we got behind it in February 2010. Core just boosted its dividend by 56% 2 weeks ago. Very positive sign. Only reason the yield is so low at 1% is because the stock keeps going higher. Let's take a closer look with Dave Demscher, the chairman, president, and CEO of Core Labs. Hear more about the quarter and his company's prospects. Mr. Demscher, welcome back to Mad Money.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Thanks for having us back on Mad Money, our 11th appearance on CNBC.
Well, I know what I like about it is every time you've been on, the stock has been higher than the previous time, so you must be doing something right.
Well, we've been truly blessed. There's no question about it. And our guys just put up a great quarter this time, really propelled by some new technology and driven by a lot of activities in these shale plays, these tight oil plays here in the U.S., and also in the Golden Triangle, which is the deep water areas offshore Brazil, West Africa, and the Gulf of Mexico. So the combination of those produced our 5th record quarter in a row, record levels of EPS, net income, and revenue.
Right there. So I'm watching someone talking about the upcoming earnings from a couple of big oil companies. And the wrap was this. One, oil is now stabilized, not going higher, so they probably won't drill as much. And two, the rig count's not going up, so there's probably not as much drilling. And they made people feel, after I listened to that the oil service business must be doing badly. Those don't correlate, though, do they?
Well, if we think about, just look at some of these shale plays, Jim, we are drilling longer horizontal wells. So even though it's the same drilling rig, you're drilling more footage, and we're putting more of these hydraulic fractures into those rocks. So even though that one drilling rig is static, the length of the well that it's drilling and the number of stages that it's put in could be 5, 10, 15% greater. And that's Core Lab has really benefited from that, because every frac stage is a revenue opportunity for us. So we benefited from additional drilling, longer laterals, and more stages in those laterals.
Excellent. Now, you've got a great release where you break down everything, and you've covered America, but I want to talk about, in reservoir description, you rip right through. You say Gulf of Mexico, but then you're talking about Middle East, Kurdistan, huge different, some of these things are just like fields that I've never even heard of. Is this because when you're brought in, maybe people feel that some people felt there wasn't oil there before, but you find it?
Well, the fact is, Jim, they know it's there. They just have a difficult time maximizing the recovery. So they hire Core Laboratories. We do core analysis to look at the rocks. We look at the reservoir fluid analysis, which is the analysis of the natural gas, crude oil, and water. We combine those data sets so they can maximize their daily production, but more importantly, maximize the recovery from those reservoirs. If we look at Kurdistan, for example, there have been multi-billion barrel discoveries there. The only one problem is the recovery rates are in the 10 to 15% range. For those to be economical, we need to get that recovery range up in the 20 to 25. Worldwide, that averages about 40%. So combining those data sets generated by Core allows them to maximize daily production, but more importantly, to maximize the recovery from those fields over the life of those fields.
Does anyone have that technology besides you?
Well, the major oil companies do. We tend to see ourselves as symbiotic on a technological basis with the major oil companies. So when their own internal staffs are full up, they outsource that work to us. So we're always trying to innovate new technologies with them, so we grow our technologies right along with the Exxons and the Shells and the BPs and the Chevrons of the world.
You know, Dave, I've been a believer that we have more oil. I've been right, but lately people have been doubting me. They're saying, Jim, the stocks aren't doing that well. Clear this up for me. Reservoir management. Reservoir management continues to have a high level of activity in the Permian Basin projects focused on the Delaware Basin and Midland. People are saying, Jim, those are played out. They're old. You're too excited about nothing. Why would you be doing all this reservoir management if I'm too excited about nothing?
Right, not correct. We are high on the Permian Basin assets. You have a number of plays there, from the Sprayberry to the Wolfcamp to the Klein Shale, where we think there are additional billions of barrels of oil to be recovered from the Permian Basin. Right now, if we look at the activity levels around the U.S., the Permian Basin, the Bakken, the Eagle Ford, Jim, we see billions and billions of more barrels of oil to be recovered from these plays over the next several years, and these will be decadal plays. So we have hundreds of thousands of wells to drill and recover. If you look at the United States, we're now pushing almost 9 million barrels of oil production per day, and when we add in natural gas liquids, that's over 11 million a day. That's more than Saudi Arabia is making. So right now, we are on a very good trend. Technology is really in a renaissance period where it's going to add to recovery rates and production rates for decades to come.
Well, Dave, I have to say, when I listen to you, the people who are doubting me are doubting the science and the technology and the empirical vision your company has. They're not just, you can't really fight the facts, is what I'm saying.
Well, if you look at just from a scientific basis, we know that we are recovering more and more oil from these shale reservoirs. Back a number of years ago, the average recovery factor was maybe 5 to 7%. Now we've pushed that up to 9 to 12%. Ultimately, we think we can get it up into the mid to high teens, which for tight oil shale reservoirs will be very, very good, very, very encouraging for the energy producing trends in this country, not only in this country, worldwide, when we start looking at shales in Russia, North Africa, China, and Australia, because they're right around the corner.
Well, Dave, I want to thank you again for delivering for shareholders, all viewers. It's impossible. Viewers have all made money if they've watched you, because the stock's up every single time. Thank you so much, David Dempster, Chairman, President, and CEO of Core Labs. Guys, what can I say? If you believe in the technology of oil, what you really believe in is Core Labs. Stay with Cramer.